The Black Ledger, Episode 1, The City Beneath, New York. 1974. The city did not sleep, it pretended to. After midnight, the windows went dark, the office towers emptied, the decent people locked their doors, but underneath all that, New York remained awake. In the subway tunnels, in the back rooms of jazz clubs, in the police precincts where cigarettes burned longer than confessions, in phone booths where men whispered names they would later deny knowing. The city had a pulse, dirty, nervous, unforgiving, and Adrian Vale had spent most of his life listening to it. Not with his ears, with his eyes. He noticed what other people ignored. A coat button missing from the wrong side, mud on a shoe that didn't match the weather, ink on a thumb, a pause before a lie. Small things. The city was made of small things, and murder was usually hidden inside them. That night, rain fell over Manhattan like static, thin, cold, relentless. Adrian sat alone in his office above a closed pawn shop on 9th Avenue. The neon sign outside blinked red through the blinds. Open, closed, open, closed. A lie told by electricity. His desk was covered with old case files, unsolved homicides, corruption reports, newspaper clippings, photographs with faces circled in black pencil. He had left the NYPD 2 years earlier. Officially, because of exhaustion. Unofficially, because he had noticed the wrong pattern. Too many cases disappeared before they were solved. Too many witnesses changed their stories. Too many reports arrived already incomplete. And too many powerful men survived crimes that should have buried them. Adrian had not been fired. That would have been too obvious. He had simply been made useless. No files, no access, no badge, no authority, only a room above a pawn shop, a bad heater, and the kind of mind that refused to stop working. At 11:43 p.m., someone knocked on his office door. 3 knocks, a pause, then 2 more. Not random, a pattern. Adrian looked up from the file in front of him. He did not move immediately. People reveal themselves before they speak, in footsteps, in breathing, in the way they wait outside a door. Whoever stood outside was not impatient, not frightened, not drunk. That narrowed the possibilities. Adrian opened the drawer beneath his desk. His revolver was inside. He did not pick it up, only confirmed it was there. Then he said, "Come in." The door opened. A young man stepped inside. Late 20s, brown coat, cheap shoes, expensive fear. That was Adrian's first conclusion. The man's clothes said working class. His posture said messenger. His eyes said he knew too much about what he was carrying. Rainwater dripped from the brim of his hat onto the floor. He held a package wrapped in dark paper. No return address, no stamp, no name. "Mr. Vale," Adrian leaned back slightly. "That depends on who's asking." The man swallowed. "I was told to deliver this." "By whom?" "I don't know." A lie? Not complete, but defensive. Adrian watched his right hand. The fingers trembled slightly. Not from cold. "You don't know his name," Adrian said, "but you saw his face." The man froze. Adrian pointed toward the chair. "Sit down before you faint on my floor." The man remained standing. "I'm not supposed to stay." People who say that usually want to. The man looked toward the door, then back at Adrian. "He said you'd understand after the 7th death." The room changed. Not physically, but in weight. Adrian's eyes narrowed. "What did you say?" The man placed the package on the desk. His hand withdrew quickly, as if the object were hot. He said, "Tell Vale the 7th death was not a murder." Silence. Outside, a taxi passed through rainwater, sending a hiss along the street. Adrian looked at the package. then at the messenger. "What is your name?" The man's face tightened. "Does it matter?" "It usually does." "Thomas Reed." Adrian nodded once. "Thomas Reed, you are going to leave this office, walk downstairs, turn left, and avoid the subway tonight." Thomas stared at him. "Why?" "Because men who deliver messages like this rarely live long enough to regret it." Thomas went pale before he could answer. The phone rang. Adrian did not look away from him. One ring, two, three. He picked up. No greeting, no breath, only silence. Then a man's voice spoke softly through the line, cultured, measured, almost amused. "Good evening, Mr. Vale." Adrian's expression did not change. "Who is this?" "You'll know soon enough." "I dislike theatrical men." "No," the voice replied. "You dislike inefficient ones." Adrian said nothing. The man continued. "Open the book." Adrian looked at the package. Thomas Reed stepped backward. The voice on the phone softened. "The first page will give you a body." A pause. "The last page will give you a war." The line went dead. Adrian held the receiver for another second, then placed it down carefully. Thomas whispered, "Who was that?" Adrian began unwrapping the package. "I suspect..." The dark paper came apart slowly. "A man who enjoys being underestimated." Inside was a black leather book, old, heavy, no title, no author, no markings on the cover, only a faint indentation in the leather, a symbol, a circle cut by a vertical line. Adrian opened it. The first page contained one sentence, written in black ink. "The seventh death was not a murder." Below it, a name. Judge Malcolm Wren. Adrian stopped breathing for half a second. Judge Malcolm Wren had been found dead that morning in his private study on Park Avenue, a bullet wound to the chest, door locked from inside. No signs of forced entry, no missing valuables. The newspapers were already calling it suicide. The police were calling it tragic. Adrian had called it staged, privately. To no one, he turned the page. There were 7 names, 6 crossed out, 1 not. Judge Malcolm Wren was the 7th. Beside every name was a date, a location, a time, and, beneath each entry, a single word. Necessary. Thomas Reed was shaking now. "What is that?" Adrian did not answer. He turned another page. The next entry was dated tomorrow. No, not tomorrow, tonight. 12:17 a.m. Brooklyn docks near Red Hook. Victim Samuel Price. Cause falling. Adrian checked the clock on his wall. 11:51 p.m. 26 minutes. He closed the book, stood, put on his coat. Thomas stepped back. "What are you doing?" "Trying to arrive before a dead man does." The streets of Manhattan blurred beneath rain and headlights. Adrian drove east in an old Plymouth that sounded like it was losing an argument with gravity. Thomas Reed sat beside him. He had tried to leave. Adrian had not allowed it. "You're kidnapping me," Thomas muttered. "No," Adrian said. "I'm extending your life against your poor judgment." Thomas stared through the windshield. "What if the book is fake?" "Then we get wet in Brooklyn." "And if it isn't?" Adrian's eyes remained on the road. "Then someone wants me to watch a murder happen before it happens." Thomas swallowed. "You think this Samuel Price is already dead?" "No." "Then why are you driving so fast?" "Because the book said falling." Thomas frowned. So if he was already dead, the cause would be written differently. Thomas stared at him. "You got all that from one word?" Adrian turned the wheel sharply. "No, I got it from the arrogance of the man who wrote it." They crossed into Brooklyn through rain thick enough to erase distance. The docks appeared at 12:13 a.m., 4 minutes early, Fog rolled in from the water. Ships stood like black skeletons against the night. Warehouse windows glowed faintly. Somewhere nearby, a radio played jazz through static. Adrian stopped the car before the final warehouse. He turned off the headlights. Thomas whispered, "What now?" Adrian watched the docks. "Now we listen." "For what?" "Mistakes." They waited. Rain, water, distant metal creaking, a dog barking far away. Then footsteps. Adrian stepped out of the car. Thomas followed reluctantly. A man walked along the upper loading platform of Warehouse 6. Mid-40s, hat low, coat collar raised. Samuel Price. Probably. He moved like a man who believed he was alone. That meant he was not expecting danger. Or he was expecting the wrong kind. Adrian looked up at the platform railing. Old metal. Rusted. Loose at the corner. Falling. He whispered, "Damn." Thomas looked at him. "What?" Adrian pointed. "That railing breaks in 4 minutes." "How can you know that?" "I don't. But the killer does." Adrian moved quickly. Not running. Running alerts witnesses. Running changes outcomes. He crossed the dock and entered the warehouse through a side door. Inside smelled of salt, rope, oil, and old wood. Samuel Price's footsteps echoed above. Adrian climbed the stairs 2 at a time. At the top, he saw him. Samuel Price stood near the broken section of railing, looking down at the water. He held an envelope in one hand. "Mr. Price," Adrian called. The man turned sharply. His face showed surprise first, then recognition, then fear. Not of Adrian, of being seen with him. That mattered. "Who are you?" Price demanded. "Someone trying to keep you from falling." Price looked toward the railing instinctively. Mistake. He had not known about it. Then the danger was not the railing. The railing was only the method. Adrian's eyes moved. Right side. Stacked crates, a shadow behind them. Someone else was there. "Step away from the edge," Adrian said. Price hesitated. From behind the crates, a gun clicked. Adrian moved before the sound finished. The shot cracked through the warehouse. Price stumbled backward. "Not hit!" Startled, his heel struck the base of the railing. The rusted metal gave way. Adrian lunged, grabbed Price by the sleeve. For 1 second, the man hung over the black water below. Thomas screamed from somewhere beneath them. Adrian pulled hard, too hard. The sleeve tore. Price fell. His body struck the lower dock railing first, then the water. Silence. Then the splash. Adrian stood frozen at the broken rail. He had been early. He had intervened. And Samuel Price had died exactly as written. From the shadows, someone began clapping slowly. Adrian turned. A man in a dark coat stood near the crates, face hidden by the brim of his hat, gun in one hand. "Elegant attempt," the man said. Adrian's voice was calm. "You fired to startle him, not kill him." "Yes." "You knew I'd pull him." "Yes." "You knew the sleeve would tear." The man smiled faintly. "No, Mr. Vale. I knew you would choose the sleeve." Adrian stared at him. That was different. That was not prediction of events. That was prediction of character. The man placed a small card on a crate, then stepped backward into darkness. Adrian moved after him. Too late. The side door slammed. Outside, an engine started, then disappeared into rain. Adrian picked up the card. Only 2 words. The broker. On the back, 2nd page. Adrian opened the black book with wet hands. The ink on the page had changed. Samuel Price's name was now crossed out. Below it appeared a new sentence. "You saved nothing." Thomas reached the platform slowly, pale and soaked. "Is he?" "Yes," Adrian said. Thomas looked at the book, then at the water. How did he know? Adrian stared at the broken railing, the torn sleeve in his hand. The exact outcome, the planned fear, the staged choice. He didn't know the future, Adrian said quietly. Then what? Adrian looked toward the rain-darkened doorway where the man had vanished. He knew me. By dawn, the newspapers had already begun printing. That was impossible. The body had barely been recovered, yet a headline appeared on the corner stand outside Adrian's office at 5:42 a.m. Second dock death in Brooklyn, police suspect accident. Adrian bought every edition, 6 papers, 6 variations, same conclusion, accident. Someone had prepared the story in advance, not after the death, before. That was the first real shape of the game, not murder alone, control. The crime, the witness, the report, the newspaper, the public memory, all arranged before the event occurred. Back in his office, Thomas Reed sat in the chair opposite Adrian's desk, wrapped in a dry coat and looking 5 years older. "You need to go to the police," Thomas said. Adrian placed the newspapers in a line. "One of them already knows." "You don't know that?" Adrian pointed to the third article. The phrase tragic industrial neglect appears in 3 separate papers before the docs were inspected. So either every journalist in New York became poetic at the same time. He placed the black book beside the newspapers, or they were handed the same language. Thomas stared. Adrian opened the book again. A new page had appeared, or rather, a page that had been blank was no longer blank. There was one sentence. "The opera will applaud the red note, below it, tomorrow night. Broadway, Theatre Marcellus." Thomas whispered, "What does that mean?" Adrian looked at the sentence for a long time. Then he noticed something. A faint smell rising from the ink, not ordinary ink, chemical, metallic, bitter. He touched the edge of the page, fresh. The book had been updated after the death, but it had never left his possession. For the first time in years, Adrian felt something almost like fear, not because a killer was clever. Clever men are common, because the rules of the game were unclear. And an unclear game is the only kind worth fearing. The phone rang again. Thomas flinched. Adrian did not. He answered. The same calm voice spoke through the line. "Now you understand the first lesson." Adrian said nothing. The voice continued. "Murder is crude, Mr. Vale." A pause. "Influence is art." Adrian's fingers tightened slightly around the receiver. "Who are you?" A soft laugh. "Names are for men who can be arrested." "You made a mistake." "Did I?" "You showed me. You need the book." Silence. For the first time, the man did not answer immediately. Adrian smiled faintly. "There it is." The voice returned, quieter now. "You are exactly as advertised." "By whom?" Another pause, then, "By the 7th death." The line went dead. Adrian remained still. Thomas stared at him. "What does that mean?" Adrian slowly looked toward the first page of the book. The 7th death was not a murder. Judge Malcolm Wren. The dead judge had known him, or known of him, or worse, had selected him. Adrian opened the judge's file again. Photographs, study, locked door, bullet wound, glass of whiskey, ashtray, a chessboard. He had missed something, not at the scene, in the pattern. He pulled the photograph closer. The chessboard sat beside the judge's body, pieces arranged mid-game, white king trapped, black bishop exposed, a move waiting. Adrian stared, then whispered, "Not suicide." Thomas leaned forward. "What?" Adrian moved to the bookshelf behind him, pulled out an old chess manual, opened to a marked page. "Bishop sacrifice, 7-move, forced mate." The judge had not left a note. He had left a position. Adrian looked back at the book. The seventh death was not a murder. No, he said softly. It was an invitation. At that moment, someone slipped an envelope under his office door. Thomas stood instantly. Adrian raised a hand. Don't. He walked to the door, picked up the envelope. No stamp, no name. Inside was a single theatre ticket. Theatre Marcellus, tomorrow night. Front row, seat 7, and written on the back, in black ink, come hear the red note. Adrian stared at it. Outside the window, morning rose over New York, dirty, loud, alive, and somewhere inside the city, a man called the broker had already written the next death. Adrian placed the ticket inside the black book, closed it, then looked at Thomas Reed. Mr. Reed? Thomas swallowed. Yes. If you still wish to live. Adrian put on his coat again. Stop telling the truth to strangers. Thomas stared at him. And what are you going to do? Adrian opened the office door. The hallway beyond smelled of dust, rain, and old electricity. He looked back once. I'm going to the opera. Then he paused. And this time, his eyes lowered to the black book in his hand. I intend to arrive before the music starts. Broadway looked beautiful in the rain. That was its first deception. Neon lights reflected across flooded pavement like broken jewels. Theatres glowed gold against the darkness. Taxi horns echoed between buildings. Couples in expensive coats hurried beneath umbrellas, pretending the city was safer near music. It wasn't. New York did not become less dangerous around rich people, only quieter. Theatre Marcellus stood at the centre of the avenue like a cathedral built for lies. Tall marble columns, golden lights, red velvet banners hanging above the entrance, and beneath all that elegance, fear. Adrian noticed it immediately. Not panic, not visible tension, something subtler. Security guards watching the crowd too carefully. Managers whispering near the entrance. Men in black coats pretending not to know one another. Patterns. The city always spoke through patterns. Adrian stepped from the taxi slowly. Rainwater rolled from the brim of his hat. The black ledger rested beneath his coat. Heavy, warmer than paper should have been. Thomas Reed exited the taxi behind him, still nervous, still glancing over his shoulder every few seconds. You sure we should be here? He asked quietly. No. Adrian lit a cigarette. But he wants us here. Thomas looked toward the glowing theatre entrance. And that doesn't bother you? It bothers me immensely. Adrian exhaled smoke toward the rain, but curiosity has always been my worst habit. The crowd moved around them toward the entrance. Politicians, actors, journalists, women wrapped in diamonds and perfume, men carrying the exhaustion of old money. Adrian watched faces carefully. Nobody here looked innocent. That interested him. At the theatre doors, an elderly usher scanned their tickets. The moment he saw Adrian's seat number, his expression changed slightly, only for a second, but enough. Recognition, not surprise. Expectation. Adrian leaned closer. You've been told to expect me. The usher froze. I'm sorry? Your left hand tightened before you looked at the ticket again. The old man swallowed. I don't know what you mean. Another lie. Poorly performed. Adrian smiled faintly. Neither do most people. They entered the theatre. The inside of Theatre Marcellus looked untouched by time. Massive chandeliers glowed above rows of crimson seats. Gold detailing covered the balconies. A live orchestra tuned instruments below the stage. But Adrian noticed something else. There were too many exits, not architecturally, strategically. The room had been designed for movement, escape routes, private corridors, hidden access points. Interesting. Thomas leaned closer. You think Broker owns this place? Adrian studied the upper balconies. No. A pause. I think he uses it. Their seats waited near the front row. Seat 7. Exactly as written. Adrian sat slowly. The stage curtain remained closed. The orchestra continued warming up. Violins, cellos, soft piano notes drifting through the theatre. Then Adrian noticed the conductor. Tall, thin, perfect posture, but his hands trembled slightly. Fear again, not stage fright. Anticipation. The conductor looked toward the upper balcony. Very briefly, someone sat there, a silhouette hidden behind shadow, watching the stage, watching Adrian. The lights dimmed slowly. Conversation faded. The orchestra fell silent. Then the performance began. The opera opened with a woman singing in Italian beneath a single spotlight. Beautiful voice, tragic tone, something about death, loss, punishment. Adrian barely listened. He watched the audience instead. Patterns, a woman near the aisle checking her watch every 2 minutes. A man 3 rows behind him touching his coat pocket repeatedly. 2 security guards near the balcony communicating through eye contact. Not random. Never random. Thomas whispered beside him, "You're not even watching the opera." Adrian's eyes remained on the crowd. The opera isn't the performance. Then the conductor made a mistake, a single wrong note. Sharp, violent. The audience barely noticed, but Adrian did, because the conductor's hand had slipped intentionally, and immediately afterward, someone in the upper balcony stood up. Signal acknowledged. Adrian looked upward sharply. The silhouette disappeared behind the curtain of the private balcony room. At that exact moment, the black ledger beneath Adrian's coat became warm again, almost hot. His eyes narrowed. Slowly, carefully, he opened the book beneath the cover of darkness. A new sentence had appeared. The red note begins the applause. Then another line slowly revealed itself beneath the ink. Death enters from stage left. Adrian looked instantly toward the stage. An actor entered from the left side curtains. Male, 40s, dressed in black formal costume. Applause echoed softly through the theatre. The actor smiled, walked 3 steps forward, stopped. Then blood appeared beneath his collar, one thin line at first almost invisible, then more. The actor touched his neck slowly, confused. The audience thought it was part of the performance, until he collapsed. Screams exploded across the theatre. The orchestra stopped instantly. People rose from their seats in panic. Security rushed toward the stage. Thomas stood abruptly. Oh my God! But Adrian remained seated, watching. Because something was wrong. The blood pattern, too clean, too controlled. The victim had been dead before he fell, which meant the performance itself had been timed around the body. Adrian moved toward the stage quickly. Security attempted to stop him. "Sir, step back." Adrian showed his old NYPD badge. Still expired, still useful. The guard hesitated long enough. Adrian reached the body. The actor lay motionless beneath the stage lights, eyes open, expression calm, too calm. Then Adrian noticed it. The victim was smiling, not naturally, forced upward, like someone had arranged the expression after death. Thomas approached slowly behind him. "You know him?" Adrian checked the actor's pulse, cold already. He died before the curtain opened. What? The blood coagulated too early. Adrian looked toward the conductor. Gone. Interesting. Police sirens echoed faintly outside now. The audience began evacuating chaotically. Journalists shouted questions. Cameras flashed, but Adrian barely heard any of it. Because he had found something inside the victim's hand, a folded piece of paper. He opened it carefully. Music notes, only 4, written in red ink. Thomas frowned. "What is that?" Adrian stared at the notes silently. Then his face changed. Recognition. "These aren't music notes," Thomas blinked. "What do you mean?" Adrian turned the paper sideways. The symbols formed numbers, coordinates. Thomas whispered, "No." Adrian folded the note slowly. "Ah, yes." Then he looked back toward the empty conductor's platform. "He's getting bolder." A voice behind them interrupted calmly. "No, Mr. Vale." Adrian turned instantly. A man stood near the backstage curtain, dark grey coat, black gloves, hat shadowing his face. Not broker. Different posture. Different eyes, but connected. The man smiled, faintly. The broker is getting impatient. Security pushed through the crowd. Nearby, the stranger stepped backward toward the curtains. Adrian moved after him, too late. The backstage lights suddenly went black. Darkness swallowed the theatre corridor completely. People shouted. Someone fell. The emergency lights flickered weakly red, and in the chaos, the stranger vanished. Thomas grabbed Adrian's arm. "Where did he go?" Adrian stared into the darkness, listening. Footsteps, far away now, calm, not running, confident. That meant exits had already been prepared. Again, always prepared. Then Adrian noticed something near the stage floor, a small object reflecting red emergency light. He picked it up carefully. A chess piece, Black Bishop. At the base, carved into the wood, were 2 words, "Second Move." Adrian closed his hand around the piece slowly. Somewhere above them, hidden behind the red velvet balconies, someone began applauding softly. One person slow, deliberate. Then silence returned, and Adrian realized something far worse than murder had just happened. The broker no longer wanted secrecy. He wanted an audience. Rain hammered against the theatre windows as police sealed the building. Blue and red lights flashed across Broadway. Journalists crowded behind barricades, cameras rolled. Reporters shouted questions no one intended to answer honestly. Inside, Theatre Marcellus. The smell of perfume had been replaced by blood and electrical smoke. Adrian stood near the edge of the stage, staring at the Black Bishop in his hand. Second Move. Thomas Reed paced nervously behind him. "You think Broker planned all this just to send you a message?" Adrian looked toward the empty conductor's platform. "No." A pause. "He planned all this because someone in this room needed to die." Detectives moved around the body, taking photographs. Flashbulbs burst through the darkness every few seconds. The victim still smiled. That disturbed everyone, especially the police. One detective approached Adrian carefully. Lieutenant Harris, NYPD homicide, mid-50s, wrinkled coat, permanent exhaustion in his eyes. Adrian recognized him immediately. "Harris," the lieutenant sighed. "Vale." Neither man sounded happy about the reunion. Harris looked toward the body. "You picked an unfortunate night to attend the opera." "I was invited." Harris frowned slightly. "That sounds ominous." "It usually is." The lieutenant lowered his voice. "You still carrying that habit?" "What habit?" "Talking like everything is already solved." Adrian lit another cigarette. "No." Smoke drifted upward beneath the stage lights. "I talk like everything already happened." Harris stared at him for a second, then looked away. "Jesus Christ, I didn't miss this." Adrian crouched beside the body again. Victim's name. Victor Lang. The name mattered. Adrian recognized it immediately. Victor Lang, Broadway actor, former military intelligence during Vietnam, disappeared from public life for 3 years before returning to theatre. Interesting. Cause of death? Adrian asked. Harris rubbed his forehead. Medical examiner says throat was cut. Thomas looked horrified. But nobody saw. Exactly, Harris interrupted. Nobody saw anything. Adrian studied the wound carefully. Thin incision, precise, professional, not rage, not panic, execution. Then he noticed powder near the victim's collar, white residue, almost invisible beneath makeup. Adrian touched it carefully, smelled it. Chemical, sedative. He was unconscious before the curtain rose, Adrian said quietly. Harris frowned. You got all that from powder? No. Adrian looked toward the audience seats. I got it from the applause. Thomas blinked. What? The audience clapped before the body fell. Harris crossed his arms. So humans react to movement before death. Adrian stood slowly, but nobody reacted until after the collapse. Silence. Understanding slowly crossed Harris's face. You're saying the body was already dead before he entered the stage? Thomas looked pale again. Then who walked out there? Adrian glanced toward the backstage curtains. That, he said softly, is the right question. The theatre suddenly felt colder. Harris ordered officers toward backstage immediately. More shouting, more movement. But Adrian remained still, thinking. Patterns, the wrong note, the conductor disappearing, the smiling corpse, the bishop, everything connected. The problem was timing. Timing always exposed intelligence. Broker's greatest talent was not murder. It was choreography. Every person moved exactly where they were supposed to move, like pieces on a board. Adrian's eyes shifted slowly toward the orchestra pit. One chair remained slightly separated from the others, the conductor's chair, too far back, as if someone had moved it quickly. He approached, bent down, then smiled faintly. There you are. Thomas stepped closer. What? Adrian pointed beneath the chair. Scratches in the wood floor. Fresh. Parallel lines, heavy object dragged recently. Harris joined them. You seen something? Yes. Adrian followed the scratch marks visually toward backstage. They moved something large through here. Like what? A body. Thomas swallowed hard. You think Victor Lang was already dead before the show started? No. Adrian's eyes narrowed. I think Victor Lang died somewhere else entirely. That changed everything. Because if the murder happened before the performance, then the opera itself existed only to reveal the corpse publicly. A display, a statement, a performance about performance. Broker loved symbolism. That much was becoming obvious. Suddenly an officer shouted from backstage, "Lieutenant!" Harris turned sharply. What? We found the conductor. Everyone moved instantly. Backstage corridors twisted like a maze behind the theatre. Dark hallways, dust, old pipes running along cracked walls, emergency lights glowing red overhead. The deeper they moved, the older the building felt, like something beneath the glamour had been rotting for decades. They found the conductor inside a locked dressing room, alive, barely conscious, hands tied, mouth covered, his eyes filled with terror when Adrian entered. Not fear of police, fear of failing someone. Adrian removed the cloth from his mouth. The conductor gasped desperately. He said he'd kill my daughter. Harris cut the ropes quickly. Who? The conductor shook violently. I never saw his face. Adrian crouched beside him. But you heard his voice. The conductor froze. Adrian continued calmly. Deep voice, educated, calm, never raises it. The conductor stared. How do you know that? Because frightened men always remember calm voices. The conductor looked down. He knew everything about me. Adrian's expression darkened slightly. Of course he did. Broker never threatened randomly. He studied people first, found pressure points, weaknesses, patterns. What did he make you do? Adrian asked. The conductor's hands trembled. He told me to play the wrong note. Thomas frowned. That's it. The conductor looked toward the stage with hollow eyes. He said the wrong note would begin the performance. Adrian stood slowly. Again, signals. Everything depended on signals. The wrong note, the balcony silhouette, the corpse. Broker was directing people without them understanding the entire plan, which meant someone else inside the theatre still had a role left to play. Adrian turned instantly toward Harris. Lock every exit, the lieutenant blinked. Why? Because this performance isn't finished. Almost immediately, the theatre lights died completely. Darkness swallowed the building. Screams echoed from somewhere near the lobby. Then, gunshots. 2 of them, fast, sharp. People shouted downstairs. Police rushed toward the sound. Adrian moved first. The lobby had descended into chaos. Guests who had remained for questioning now pushed toward exits in panic. Flashlights cut through darkness, rain blasted through the front doors, and in the center of the marble floor, a journalist lay bleeding beside an overturned camera, dead. 1 bullet to the head, execution again, clean, deliberate. Thomas stared in horror. Oh God! Adrian crouched beside the body, then noticed the camera still recording. Interesting. Very interesting. He picked it up. The tape inside continued spinning. Harris approached quickly. What the hell just happened? Adrian rewound the footage slightly. Static rolled across the tiny screen, then the image stabilized. The recording showed the lobby moments earlier, confused guests, police movement, journalists arguing, then, for less than 2 seconds, a man passed directly in front of the camera. Dark coat, black gloves, face hidden beneath a hat. But one detail remained visible, a silver pin attached near the collar, a circle cut by a vertical line, the same symbol from the ledger. Thomas whispered, "That's him." Adrian kept watching the tape. The stranger moved calmly through the crowd. Nobody noticed him, nobody reacted, because truly dangerous men never look dangerous. Then the footage captured something else just before the gunshot. The stranger looked directly into the camera and pointed behind the cameraman. The journalist turned instinctively. Then the recording shook violently. Gunshot, black screen. Adrian stopped the tape. Silence surrounded them for a moment. Then Harris asked quietly, "You know what bothers me?" Adrian handed him the camera. "What?" Harris stared at the frozen frame. He wanted this recorded. Adrian nodded slowly. "Yes." A pause. "And that means we're still watching exactly what he wants us to watch." Thomas looked between them nervously. "You mean there's more?" Adrian looked toward the dark balconies above the theatre, toward the hidden private rooms, toward the shadows where someone could still be standing silently, watching, waiting. Then Adrian noticed movement high above the stage. A single spotlight slowly turned on by itself. Everyone looked upward. The stage curtain began opening, very slowly. And hanging at the center of the stage was a giant photograph of Judge Malcolm Wren. Across the image, written in red paint, "Seventh death confirmed." The theatre fell silent. No screams now. No movement, only rain outside. And somewhere, inside the darkness above them, A man began applauding again, slow, patient, like a teacher, satisfied with his students. Adrian stared upward, then finally understood the truth. Broker was not hiding from the city. He was introducing himself to it. The applause stopped suddenly, not naturally, abruptly, like a signal ending. The theatre remained frozen in silence. Police officers aimed flashlights toward the upper balconies. Nothing, only shadows. Empty velvet seats, dust drifting through weak beams of light. But Adrian knew better. Broker had been there, not watching the chaos, conducting it. Lieutenant Harris lowered the camera slowly. "You think he's still inside?" Adrian looked toward the balconies. "No." A pause. "I think he left before the first scream." Thomas Reed stared at the massive photograph hanging above the stage. "Seventh death, confirmed." The red paint still dripped slowly down the image. Fresh. That meant someone had prepared the stage while police were already inside the building. Impossible. Unless... Adrian's eyes narrowed. "Backstage access," Harris turned. "Oh, what?" "The killer never escaped the theatre." Thomas frowned. But you just said he escaped before the lockdown." Adrian moved toward the side corridor quickly. The photograph was already waiting. Harris followed beside him. "You saying this whole building was prepared in advance?" "Yes." "How long?" Adrian glanced toward the stage machinery overhead. Days. Maybe longer. The deeper they moved backstage, the stranger the theatre became. The public areas looked luxurious, elegant, controlled. But behind the curtains, everything changed. Narrow hallways, peeling paint, ancient pipes rattling behind walls, broken mirrors, old dressing rooms abandoned decades earlier. Like the theatre had two faces, one for the audience, one for truth. Adrian stopped suddenly near a maintenance corridor. The air smelled wrong. Not dust, not mold, burned film. He looked toward an old steel door partially hidden behind stacked props. A chain hung loose from the handle, recently cut. Adrian touched the metal carefully, still warm. "Someone was here," Thomas whispered. Adrian opened the door slowly. Dark stairs descended beneath the theatre. Deep underground, the smell intensified immediately. Burned paper, machine oil, smoke. Harris cursed quietly. "I didn't even know this level existed." "That's because theatres weren't built only for performances." Adrian stepped downward. "Some were built for meetings." The staircase led beneath the stage itself. The underground room below looked less like storage, and more like an office that had been abandoned in a hurry. Tables overturned, documents burned inside metal barrels, maps pinned across walls, telephone lines, old photographs, and at the center of the room, a projector still running. Static flickered across a white screen. Thomas looked around nervously. "What is this place?" Adrian walked toward the maps. "Coordination." "Coordination for what?" Adrian's eyes moved across the photographs pinned beside Manhattan street maps. Judges, journalists, union leaders, police captains, actors, every face connected by red lines. Patterns again, always patterns. Then Adrian noticed something colder than fear. Several photographs were marked with black X symbols. Judge Malcolm Wren, Samuel Price, Victor Lang, dead already. But others remained untouched. Future targets. Harris stared at the wall. "Jesus Christ," Thomas stepped backward, slowly. "This isn't one killer." "No," Adrian said quietly. "It never was." The projector crackled louder suddenly, then the static disappeared. An image appeared on the screen. A chessboard, black pieces already moving, no player visible, only the board. Then a voice filled the underground room, calm, measured, familiar. "Good evening, Mr. Vale." Thomas went pale instantly. Harris drew his revolver. "Where is he?" The voice ignored him. "You're improving." Adrian remained perfectly still. "You mistake persistence for improvement." A faint chuckle echoed through hidden speakers. "No." A pause. "I mistake survival for intelligence." The chess pieces continued moving automatically across the screen, white losing slowly, methodically. Adrian studied the board carefully. Not random moves, a real match, an old one, recognizable. Then his eyes narrowed. Morphy versus Duke Carl. The voice paused briefly. "Interesting. Broker enjoyed recognition." "You know your chess history. It's one of the few games where rich men publicly admire slaughter." Another quiet laugh. "Excellent answer." The black bishop moved across the board, white queen trapped. Thomas whispered, "What is this?" Adrian never looked away from the screen. "A lesson." The voice continued. "You still misunderstand the purpose of the ledger." Adrian lit another cigarette. "Then enlighten me." "The book does not predict death." Smoke drifted through projector light. "It organizes inevitability." Harris looked confused. "What the hell does that mean?" Broker answered calmly. "It means every city eventually reveals what it truly values." The chessboard shifted again, another white piece removed. "In New York," the voice continued, "power matters more than innocence." Adrian's eyes moved slowly toward the wall of photographs. "No." A pause. "Control matters more than truth." Silence followed, brief but noticeable. Broker appreciated correct answers. Then the projector image changed suddenly. New photograph. A woman, young, dark hair, hospital bracelet visible on her wrist. Thomas stared. "Oh God." The conductor's daughter. Broker spoke again. "People always believe morality is stronger than fear." The image zoomed slowly closer. "They are usually wrong." Harris stepped toward the projector furiously. "You threatening civilians now?" "No, Lieutenant." The voice sounded almost disappointed. "I am demonstrating economics." Adrian's face remained emotionless, but internally. Something shifted. Broker was escalating, not emotionally, operationally. That meant pressure. Pressure meant urgency, which meant Broker needed something to happen soon. Adrian finally asked the question that mattered. "What are you preparing for?" Silence. Longer this time. Then the third movement. The projector screen changed again, now showing subway tunnels beneath Manhattan, old maintenance routes, abandoned lines. Red circles marked specific locations underground. Thomas looked terrified. "What is that?" Adrian stared at the map, then slowly realized something horrifying. "These aren't subway routes." Harris frowned. "What do you mean?" Adrian stepped closer. "These are evacuation corridors." Silence filled the underground room, then Broker spoke softly. "Very good, Mr. Vale." Thomas shook his head. No. The voice continued calmly. "Cities are fragile things." The map zoomed toward Lower Manhattan. One interruption, another red circle appeared. One coordinated failure, another. And millions of people become animals remarkably quickly. Harris aimed his revolver toward the projector instinctively. "You planning an attack?" Broker ignored him completely. Fear reorganizes civilization faster than war ever could. Adrian understood now. Not terrorism. Demonstration. Broker wasn't trying to destroy New York. He was trying to expose it. To prove something. The chessboard returned to the screen. Only a few white pieces remained. Broker's voice softened slightly. The judge understood this. Another move. So did Samuel Price. Another move. And Victor Lang. Thomas looked confused. What did they understand? Adrian asked quietly, before Broker could. They were involved. Harris turned sharply. In what? Adrian looked toward the wall of photographs again, then toward the evacuation maps, then the ledger beneath his coat. A network. The voice almost sounded pleased. At last, Thomas stepped backward, slowly. You mean the victims weren't random? No, Adrian said. They were connected before they died. Broker spoke again. Every man you have investigated served the same machine. The projector flashed more photographs rapidly. Politicians, bankers, police officials, actors, journalists, all connected, all photographed secretly. All of them, Broker said calmly, helped construct the illusion of order. The images stopped on Judge Malcolm Wren. Your judge signed emergency authorization protocols. Samuel Price appeared next. Your dock worker transported restricted cargo through Manhattan ports. Then Victor Lang. Your actor carried messages between men too powerful to meet publicly. Thomas stared at the images in disbelief. You're saying they deserve to die? Broker answered immediately. No. That surprised everyone, even Adrian. The voice continued. I'm saying they already chose their role long before I arrived. Silence again. Then Adrian finally understood the true danger. Broker did not see himself as a criminal. He saw himself as inevitable, and men who believe they are inevitable become extraordinarily dangerous. The projector suddenly flickered violently. Static flooded the screen again. Then one final image appeared. A subway station, empty, dark. One line written across the photograph, Grand Central, midnight, third movement. The screen went black. The underground room fell silent. Only the projector wheel continued spinning softly in darkness. Thomas whispered, "What happens at Grand Central?" Adrian closed the ledger slowly. His expression had changed. Not fear, calculation, because for the first time, Broker had stopped speaking symbolically. Now he was giving coordinates, dates, locations, which meant the game was accelerating. And acceleration always meant one thing. Someone was running out of time. Rain flooded the streets outside Theatre Marcellus as dawn approached. New York looked exhausted. Steam rose from subway grates, garbage trucks growled through empty avenues, taxi headlights drifted through fog like tired ghosts. But beneath the city, something was moving. Adrian could feel it now, not emotionally, structurally, patterns tightening, events accelerating, the board changing shape. Lieutenant Harris drove through Midtown in silence. Thomas Reed sat in the back seat, staring nervously through rain-covered windows. No one spoke for several minutes. Finally, Harris broke the silence. "You actually believe him?" Adrian looked out at the city. "I believe preparation." "That's not what I asked." "No." A pause. "But it's the important part." Harris tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "You think there's really something planned for Grand Central?" Adrian lit another cigarette. "I think Broker wants us there." Thomas leaned forward. "Then maybe we shouldn't go." Adrian finally looked at him. "And let him control the board alone?" Thomas hesitated. "That's exactly what he wants." "No." Smoke drifted slowly through the car. "He wants fear to make the decision for us." The streets blurred beneath red traffic lights. Adrian's eyes moved constantly, watching storefront reflections, pedestrians, cars parked too long near intersections, men standing motionless beneath awnings. Most people never noticed surveillance, because most people believed danger looked dramatic. Real danger rarely did. Harris parked near an all-night diner on Lexington Avenue. "I need coffee," he muttered. "You need sleep," Adrian replied. "Coffee is cheaper." Inside, the diner smelled of burned coffee, cigarettes, and old grease. A tired waitress barely looked at them as they entered. Jazz played softly from a radio near the kitchen. 3 construction workers sat near the window. A drunk businessman slept in the corner booth. Normal people. Normal exhaustion. Broker would hate this place, too honest. They sat in the back corner. Thomas rubbed his face nervously. "I still don't understand what he wants." Adrian stirred sugar into black coffee without drinking it. "Control. Over the city? No." Adrian looked toward the rain outside. "Over perception." Thomas frowned. "What does that even mean?" "It means Broker understands something most powerful men don't." A pause. "People don't panic because of violence." Harris lit his own cigarette. "They panic because they realize someone else controls reality." Silence settled over the booth. The waitress delivered coffee quietly. Her hand trembled slightly when she noticed Harris's badge. Fear again. Always fear. Adrian watched her walk away. Then his expression changed slightly. "Interesting." "Very interesting," Thomas noticed immediately. "What?" Adrian looked toward the counter. "The waitress." "What about her?" "She looked at Harris's badge first." "So?" "She avoided looking at mine." Thomas blinked. "You don't even have a badge." "Exactly." Silence. Harris frowned slowly. "You think she recognized you?" "No." Adrian stood carefully. "I think she was told to." The diner suddenly felt colder. Adrian walked toward the counter slowly. The waitress stiffened immediately. Not surprise, expectation. He stopped beside the register. "What's your name?" "Emily." "You've been nervous since we entered." "I don't know what you mean." A lie. Weak. Predictable. Adrian placed money on the counter. "Someone told you to watch for me." Emily's breathing changed instantly. Faster. Fear. Not of Adrian, of someone else. That mattered more. "I didn't." "You looked at my hands when I walked in." Adrian's voice remained calm. "People only do that when they're checking for something specific." The waitress stared silently. Adrian leaned slightly closer. "What were you told to give me?" Her eyes widened. There it was. Confirmation. Thomas stood from the booth nervously. Harris approached more cautiously. Emily reached beneath the counter slowly. Harris immediately grabbed his revolver. "Easy." The waitress pulled out a small envelope with shaking hands. "That man said you'd come before sunrise." Adrian took the envelope carefully. "What man?" "I never saw his face." "Of course not." Broker understood compartmentalization perfectly. "How long ago?" 2 hours. That meant Broker already knew the theatre investigation timeline. Again, preparation. Adrian opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a subway token, old, silver. One side scratched deeply. Thomas frowned. "That's it?" "No." Adrian turned the token over. Numbers had been carved into the metal. Track 19, Grand Central, 11:47 p.m. Harris cursed quietly. "He's practically inviting us." Adrian stared at the token silently, then noticed something else inside the envelope. A folded newspaper clipping, old, yellowed, dated October 3rd, 1958. Thomas unfolded it carefully. The headline read, "City Evacuation Test Ends in Disaster." Harris took the clipping. "I've never heard of this," Adrian had. Barely. Something old, buried. A story removed from public memory intentionally. He scanned the article quickly. Power outage beneath Midtown. Emergency evacuation protocols activated. 31 civilians crushed underground during panic movement through subway tunnels. Government blamed electrical failure. But Adrian noticed the names connected to the article. Judge Malcolm Wren, a transit commissioner named Samuel Price Sr., and another name circled in black ink. Victor Lang, not the actor, his father. Silence filled the diner booth again. Thomas looked pale. The victims? Adrian nodded slowly. They inherited something. Harris stared at the clipping. You think Broker's targeting families now? No. Adrian's eyes darkened slightly. I think he's correcting history. Outside, thunder rolled across Manhattan. The radio near the kitchen crackled, suddenly with static. Everyone inside the diner looked up instinctively. Then the music stopped completely. A man's voice replaced it, calm, measured, impossible. Good morning, New York. The waitress dropped a coffee cup in shock. The construction workers looked around, confused. Harris stood instantly. Broker's voice continued through the radio speakers. Most of you will ignore this message. Static crackled softly behind his words. That is the first symptom of civilization. Adrian stared at the radio silently. The voice remained perfectly calm. You believe systems protect you. Thunder echoed outside again. You believe order exists naturally. The lights inside the diner flickered once, then steadied. But order, Broker said softly, is only a performance people agree to continue. The drunk businessman in the corner slowly woke up, confused, listening. Every person in the diner had gone silent now. Even strangers recognized danger when it sounded certain. Harris moved toward the radio. Can you trace this? Adrian shook his head immediately. No. Why not? Because he wants it heard. Broker continued. Tonight at Grand Central Station. The waitress covered her mouth nervously. New York will remember how fragile it truly is. Static intensified briefly. Then one final sentence. Mr. Vale. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Please try to arrive early again. The radio died instantly. Jazz music returned as if nothing had happened. Normality restored, artificially. No one inside the diner moved for several seconds. Then conversation slowly returned. Nervous, whispered, fear spreading organically now. Broker understood psychology perfectly. Not enough panic to create riots, just enough uncertainty to infect thought. Harris looked toward Adrian. We need to alert the city. No, Thomas stared. What? Adrian placed the subway token beside the coffee cup. If you warn millions of people about Grand Central... Realization crossed Harris's face immediately. We create the panic for him, the lieutenant finished quietly. Exactly. That was the trap. Fear itself was the weapon, not bombs, not guns, movement, crowds, confusion. Adrian finally stood. We go underground. Thomas looked horrified. Now? Yes. Why? Adrian put on his coat slowly. Because Broker never shows the final move first. Rain hammered the diner windows harder now. Morning traffic began filling the streets outside. The city waking up, unaware, vulnerable, and somewhere beneath Manhattan, someone was already preparing the third movement. End of episode 1.